Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have our friend Liam from BC, Canada. Liam's not an author. He doesn't have a website. He's just a guy, and I can just talk to people. That's the origins of this show, is just talking to anyone and everyone who has dreams. So I'll just say to Liam, thanks for showing up. I always appreciate people giving me their time and trusting me to try and help them come to some useful understanding.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And we're probably going to have a little delay on this thing because, we're talking cross-continent here. That's okay. No, just to let the audience know, sometimes the video will probably get glitchy, and it is what it is. We're all doing our best. Usually this is the part of the show where I say, who are you and what are your books and yada, yada, and stuff like that. So I almost don't know I've forgotten how to talk to just regular people. Like there's no topic for conversation right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have a mutual fascination with dreams. It's common to the human condition. So, we'll just talk about that, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good deal. Unlike recent episodes, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about other stuff. We're just going to jump into the dream thing. As I usually describe.
I could give you just a little background about myself or whatever. What kind of?
Yeah, if you want to. I didn't want to put any pressure on you.
As a normal guy.
Yeah.
No big deal. No, it just might be, and because I think there's Anyways, I'll just get into it. There's something I did want to talk to you about in that story or whatever about dreams.
For sure.
28 years old. I'm a painter by trade. My dad's a painting contractor, so I've been in the trade since I was 14 years old.
Nice.
It's summers, like literally half my life at this point. It started summers, weekends, all that sort of stuff.
That's a good way to go.
Yeah. And then I did some other trades, some like sheet metal, doing duct work and stuff like that. The last couple summers before I got back into painting, I did some commercial fishing. And this is where I thought you'd find interesting just with the dreams is like, you have insane dreams the entire time you're out there.
Oh, wow.
Because you got to imagine you're like, you're working like 20 hours a day, like 18 hours a day at least. And then you're sleeping in this sweaty bunk right beside this giant diesel engine, right? That's bigger than, almost as big as your room there, whatever, right? And you do not sleep. Like when you dream, you are working. So like I had dreams where I was just passing around blocks of the bait, because you just have frozen fish. It's just frozen in a block, right? That you put in the trap to attract to bait the fish, obviously. And so, I would have dreams where I was just doing this, just passing blocks, and it felt like all night long, from the second I went to sleep to the second I woke up. And the guy sleeping next to me, the Irishman, he'd be like, you look like you were working all night. So I really was twisting like this or whatever, right?
Wow.
And then there was another time where I had a dream where I was working in the freezer, and like you climb down into the freezer. Like there's a big hatch and you've got to climb into it. There's no ladder or anything. You're just dropping into this freezer. And so I had a dream that I was in that freezer, right? And that the boat started sinking, right? And then I was trying to get out of the hatch, but the hatch was locked, and it started, filling up with water, right? And so I had this dream where I'm pounding and trying to get out, but I'm also realizing that I only have so much oxygen and energy. Like I can't panic, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I stop, and it's like, okay, think. What are we gonna do? And then I wake up and I'm in my bunk, and the bunk that I was sleeping in was the top bunk, and it had the escape hatch or the foxhole or whatever, right? I was literally standing up, pounding on it, twisting the thing, trying to get out. And that's just how you slept the whole time you were out there. Wow. Like it was madness.
But before this experience of starting on the fishing boat, had you had somnambulism, sleepwalking experiences before? Is that common to you, or this started with that?
As a child, and I had some sleep paralysis a couple times.
Okay.
But not much. But it was just like you were working 20 hours a day, and you also knew that you could be woken up at any hour of the night, right? Like if you got to pull the stabilizers up so that boat doesn't tip over, or you got to get a log out of them or something, like.
Yeah.
Or if you're in a harbor and the shit hits the fan, you got to pull anchor and leave or whatever. Like you were working always, even when you were asleep, really.
Yeah, and so you really
And
did.
everyone,
Yeah.
everyone had it. It wasn't just me. That was just like They said, the guys are like, you're gonna have crazy dreams. Like you're not gonna get an ounce of sleep.
Wow. That is this.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a new one on me, but I mean, it lines up with many things I theorized and have heard of before. So there's a couple of things there. One of them is we do typically dream of things we know in a way. Like there's what is it? How do they put that in one of the books? Speaking of which, I forgot to say all the housekeeping stuff. Like, share, subscribe. I've got historical dream literature for sale. Links below. Yada yada. In some of those books, they talk about how it is very common, and of course, to dream about events of the day, the week. That's a very common experience, things you've experienced, but also the idea that we cannot dream of anything we don't know. It's like trying to imagine something you've never seen before. Mostly what we do as humans is the idea of taking things that exist and maybe we combine them in new ways. That's a new experience. But it's very I think it's unknown, unheard of that anyone ever dreams of something that is not something they've seen before, a combination of other things they have seen or experienced before. So that's one of the things that lets us know that it's coming from memory, from experience, rather than some external source. In my estimation, as a credulous skeptic who's willing to entertain the possibility of supernatural phenomenon, but really focused on the psychology. I call myself a wizard, but it's purely in the psychological sense. Like I call engineers mathemagicians. Right? Yeah, I love that word too. I'm a wizard
The
of words.
Egyptians would probably like that,
right? They exactly mathemagicians, going all through the stone carving and masonry and whatnot. So yeah, and that's definitely not too. What am I trying to say? I'm all over the place most of the time. That's actually, I think that's what it's my autistic distractibility and abstractness that makes me good at the dream interpretation thing. It was very hard to communicate and focus. Saying a couple of things. Oh, and changing. So first, all that about what do we dream about and why technically, but also changing to a new environment is going to be an experience that is also stressful. And if it's as stressful as what you're going through on the boat, the risk of death, this whole new harder work you've ever done in your life, like just on call
Absolutely.
all the time, you could capsize. I mean, there's never a moment's, it's that not surprising at all. That's going to show up in your dreams. And I would have been surprised to hear that this experience caused a new onset of sleepwalking. Not impossible, but usually there's going to be some indication that was in your genetic makeup and in your physical biology somewhere in the past, either night terrors as a child, or sleepwalking episodes, or words fail me. It was something else. It doesn't matter. So yeah, you combine all these things together and the intensity of a new experience in a new environment, bam. I mean, it makes perfect sense. You're going to have these crazy dreams, and not just you, but other people are saying this is a common phenomenon. This is so intense. All of it, universally, everyone's experienced. That's a whole new concept.
Yeah.
I would have never thought of that. But it makes sense. So that's my commentary on that. Yeah.
And then other than that, the work I'm back painting now. I've got a big interest in the dream stuff or whatever. I've read a lot of Carl Jung. I like his work and and that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Jung's a
glad to be
big
here.
influence on me. So I'm not specifically a Jungian. I'm not specifically a Freudian. I take a little bit of everything from everybody and kind of just do it in my own way. But those are foundational understandings that I think people have to really kind of get an idea of what's going on and where it comes from and how it expresses itself. But then there's just the intuitive process takes and I don't want to as self-aggrandizing as it is to call myself a wizard, I don't want to pretend like I'm the best or I'm the only one or my method is always necessarily 100% correct. I look back on some previous guests and I'm like, I missed something they said that I wish I had addressed. That element might have changed some other things that I could have recommended or given us a new piece of the puzzle that kind of changed the final shape of it in a way. I'm always going to be second guessing my efforts in that regard. One of those things where it's probably never going to feel satisfied, which will be my driving force for continuing to improve. So hopefully you kind of take that with a grain of salt.
It's probably better than being absolutely sure you're right, though.
Yeah. No, I do appreciate that.
I'd be worried if you said that this is what your dream means, buddy.
And this is the only thing, and you will listen to me and you will not talk to anyone else. That's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Get a second opinion, get a different perspective. One thing I don't tend to recommend is, in a sense, self-diagnosis from dream books. Now I do historical dream literature and they have some dream dictionaries in there. I'm presenting it for historical context. This is what people believed, these suggestions that have been made. But I did a video a while back, my part of my ABC series. I think it was video 14, 16, somewhere in there. And it was comparing my interview with a young gal from England and the interpretation of her dream she would have gotten had she gone to dream books. But the bottom line on that is that it was possible from the dream books to pull out an interpretation that I believe would have made her life worse. It would have taken a physical, domestic abuse situation and told her to lean into self-destructive behaviors. Not good. So the combination of the foundation in psychology and the understanding of kind of how dreams are expressing themselves and what it's trying to say, really working with another person to kind of pull these meanings out. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I hope my viewers get a better understanding of their own dreams and can do some of that self-diagnostic stuff. And then I was looking at trying to remember and document and understand my own dreams. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. I've tried, I've done it, but it almost seems not impossible, but impractical to the point that it's just better. The best practice is talk to somebody else, talk to your best friend, talk to your sister, find another friend who's fascinated by dreams and say, let me tell you this thing and give me some feedback. Just seems like a better method.
Yeah, for sure. And I do believe that because, I was just about to say something. I lost it there.
I talk too much. Take a moment.
No worries. No worries. I don't think I'm going to get it back.
That's what I do too. I'm like, brain fart, done, moving on.
Yeah. Too far away from my Bragg magnet.
Right? Yeah, so I think we're brain fart again. I mean, at a good point to maybe just launch into your most recent dream. And I couldn't remember whether you said this was a one-off or part of a recurrent phenomenon.
It has been recurring. It is new though, and I could probably talk about other dreams that we could talk more about. Like this one's pretty episodic, but I've been having it a lot and it's recent, so I thought it would probably be the best.
Those really are the best. Candidate. That's another good point for, say, the audience, is that the more recent the dream is, the better a grasp you're going to have on it, because there is a change in our memory of dreams. Okay, random tangent again too. It's like how memory works. We found recently, and some people might dispute this, but the idea that when we remember something, we immediately after an event, we look back on that sensory impression that's in our brain and we reflect on that experience. And at that moment, a new memory is created of us reflecting on that experience. The next time we remember it, we're remembering the memory. And this is how the theory goes, our memories change over time. Every time we reflect on an experience, we're remembering the last time we remembered it, which creates a new memory that we then access the next time. So long story short, with dreams, the closer you are to immediately after it, you wake up, you haven't even got the crusties out of your eyes, you start writing it down. That's going to be the most accurate expression of, here's what I saw, here's what I felt, here's what happened. So long story short, I digress. Recent dreams, always the best. But as far as recurrent dreams go, what I've found works best is take the most recent or one that stands out. You could have had one last night, but the one 2 nights ago was the one you want to talk about. That's fine. We nail that one down. We get the details of that. We start picking it apart a little bit. And then during that blending of part 2 and part 3, from the deep dive to the interpretation, we can start relating it to common themes, and we can see if there's one overarching story that's being told in each one about a particular subject. If that makes sense, we kind of tackle one deep dive and then trying to extrapolate from there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess I could just get into it then.
Yeah. Basically, I'm ready to, as I do, shut up and listen. I'm just gonna take notes while you tell the story, and then we'll try and figure it out together. So I'm ready when you are.
Sure thing. So, in this dream, I'm in a house or whatever, and there's I've got a girlfriend, a wife, or a partner, and I'm single right now, so I don't know who this person is. There's a woman in the house or whatever, and the news is on typically. Like sometimes it's different, but the one I usually have, the news is on, right? And also that the house is full of this kind of hazy yellow light from the sun. Like it's this kind of dull, hazy kind of light. I don't know exactly how to describe it.
It's good enough, yeah.
And so she's sitting on the couch. I'm usually in the kitchen or something like that. And then on the news, in the most recent one, they're basically saying there's an asteroid coming. Like it's coming, it's hitting, everyone stay home or whatever, right? And then I have this feeling immediately that's like, that's a lie. That's a lie. Like and then she starts panicking or whatever, and then I go to the window, I look outside, and then I go, it's a bomb. It's a nuclear bomb or whatever, right? I don't know. I can't remember exactly what I say, but I'm saying, I've got this feeling immediately. I'm like, that's not true. Like what they're telling me is not true. And then I go outside and I can confirm with my own eyes it's not true, because the thing is blown up in the sky, big cloud or whatever, right? And then that yellow light is kind of radiated away by this crazy red light, and it's hard to describe the colors that you see in your head, but it's kind of like the red from like a laser pointer, or like if you were to look at your skin, look at the sun through your skin, that kind of, or look at the sun through your eyelids. Do you know that kind of?
Or if you take a
shade of red,
take a flashlight and put it through the thin webbing, and you can kind of look through that. Yeah, the red flesh tone. Yeah,
it's kind of like that, but also like a laser. And then that just. I mean, it's a bomb. It goes off, and we're basically just blown away or whatever. That's the end of the dream. So it's pretty episodic. There's not much, but I've been having it recurring, and sometimes it's a bit different. Sometimes there's no. I don't have a partner. There's no news going on. Sometimes I can't remember exactly, but that's the most recent one.
Okay, good deal. That's great. And things don't have to be, let's see. The longest episode I ever did was just a few weeks back with Laura, and that went 4.5 hours because your telling right there was like 1/5, 1/6 of her entire dream. Mm-hmm. We just kept going. Mm-hmm. It was long as hell. So dreams can be extremely short. Shortest episode I ever did was 45 minutes, and we got some useful understanding. With recurring dreams, one of the biggest signs of success that we're on to something is if it changes the nature of the dream. The dream may keep recurring or may stop entirely, because the theory is you're trying to process a specific kind of concept that's you're motivated to understand for whatever reason. It could be fear, hope, etc. Either way, it's, wanting to push away a bad thing or pull closer a good thing. Either one is a motivating force. So if it changes in some way, the fundamental nature of it, we're onto something. So we never know during the discussion immediately. But I always like to hear from people afterwards to see if that, made a difference. So that is basically part 1, and part 2 is the deep dive. We go back through it. So you're very beginning of the dream, you find yourself in a house. Is this a house from real life? Is it your house, or is it a house you recognize in any way?
It's kind of similar to this little cottage that I'm in right now, and I haven't been here for long either, so maybe that has something to do with it too, the new environment. But it's small, it's square. I don't recognize it, but it's a small little house. It's almost like I don't know if you guys have them. We have all these little houses that were built during wartime or for veterans or whatever. They're just kind of little cookie cutters or whatever, right? Just a one floor thing with a dirt basement or something. And it's kind of like that. It's, it's just a little square house, a modest home.
Okay, but it very much reminds you of kind of where you're at right now. Did these dreams start when you moved into this place, or was it before that?
Yeah, I think it probably did start when I came here.
Okay. I don't know if we discussed this at all. If you told me and I forgot, my brain doesn't hold on to very slippery with short-term memory. There was a reason you moved into this new place. Is this like, what is the reason you changed living environments? Let's leave it open like that.
Yeah, you just moved out of my place recently. I spent a few weeks with my dad at his place, and then we were kind of butting heads. I mean, I wasn't planning on staying there for long. Because before this became available, because it's just a cottage, it's only seasonal renting, and in a different town. So yeah, I guess I moved out of my place, and that was kind of a chaotic situation. I was really butting heads with my landlord. Just really having a pissing match or whatever. She'd be like, clean up your dog's turds. I'm like, I can smell your front yard from down the block. Like, don't give me shit about my turds. Like, your yard is literally turds. That's all your yard is, or whatever. And that sort of thing. Or, are you smoking down there? Like, no, but I could. Do you want me to? Which is not the best response, I know, but
still,
I
people
was
just
really
picking at you. Yeah.
Oh, so I was fighting back with them. It really was a pissing match. And then
gotcha.
I spent a couple of weeks with my dad, and him and I were butting heads too a little bit. Just because we've always been that way,
So, what you're renting?
Then I got here.
What you're renting right now is, that you said, a seasonal cottage. So there will be a time limit on how long you can stay there.
Yeah.
And do you know, do you have a plan yet for where to go afterwards? Or are you kind of letting that, no plan
No.
yet? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Same with the work thing too. That's really kind of up in the air a little bit, because, like I said, I work for myself, but I've also, like, my dad's a painting contractor, so I work for him, and then subcontract from him. I'll do my own work too, or whatever. But also, we've just kind of been a bit of strain there with our working and personal relationships. So I've kind of moved away from that. I'm thinking about I'm going to probably go my own way or whatever now.
For sure.
And I'm from a place called Kamloops, and now I'm an hour away in the Shuswap, and like, I've got family in Kelowna, a couple hours away. It's like, I don't know where I'm going to end up in this little triangle of towns.
I mean,
where I'm going to work.
That makes it a difficult situation, say specifically with your dad, is like, if your relationship's a little strained anyway, maybe you guys butt heads. Fair enough. It happens in families. But then you're also like temporarily living with them and working with them. It's like, you never get away from them. And then the headbutting, it just gets worse. You can't take that time away to say, I love you. I don't want to see your face right now. I'll call you in a week. And then a week later, you're like, I'm ready to more easily tolerate some of the things that would irk me, but they aren't that bad. They just get on my nerves. Cause I mean, that's a very common phenomenon too, to say, like, you love your family. They have some irritating habits. And if you only see them once in a while, you can stay, it can be a pleasant visit. But if you're living with them, there's no escape from the irritation. It just builds, but you gotta have that time to let it dissipate. So yeah, no,
For
that's
sure.
perfectly reasonable. So yeah, you got out of there, and rightly so, and you got a temporary living situation. So these dreams maybe started when you moved in there. So we're looking at all
I
those
think
life.
so. Yeah.
We're looking at all those life circumstances leading into possibly why this type of dream imagery might be coming to you. And it features when you're
Already, I never even put that part together, thinking about my dad and thinking about what I'm going to do for work. I was just thinking like, oh, the world is bullshitting us, so I know it's a lie and it's all coming to an end or whatever. Like, it's, I kind of thought about that part, but there's, anyways, we'll keep going. I just wanted to say that.
no, for
I
sure.
never even put those connections together.
I put a little carrot next to that. Like, we'll come back to, I'll just say it out right now, and you can let it percolate as we go forward. But you're in a temporary living situation that will come to an end. This tiny world you're in this cottage will be gone. This world you currently inhabit right now, where you're sitting, will be destroyed at some point. The house will still be there.
Yeah.
You'll still be alive, but what you got going now is definitely temporary, and it will end. There would be a hard end at some point. So you might be looking forward to, focused on maybe again, it's way too early for even tentative hypotheses.
Yeah. Sorry, but
no, it's okay. But it's good to say, this is exactly what I'm thinking. You hit the nail on the head as we're going through this. If that is the primary driver for the dream imagery, it's going to be focused on understanding where you're at, seeing it clearly, accepting it in your own mind. And the next question will be, what do I do? What do I do when this world is destroyed? What world do I move on to next? And it may not change the nature of the dream until you come to a decision. It may keep recurring until you make a plan that you believe is functional and solid to be able to move beyond where you're at right now. If you can't see beyond the destruction of this world you currently inhabit, that obsession, your mind may remain obsessed with trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But now, does that mean we solved the dream? Thanks for calling. That's the end of the show. Not
nice to meet you.
Right? I know. Good. Thanks for watching. We're out. No. That's a good now the rest of it might be okay. Even if we latch onto that and say, that's exactly it, that's necessarily the primary driving focus, you've got all this other imagery in there that connects with it. So there's still plenty of places to go with why these specific images. How is it that you're conceptualizing this problem? What is it your brain sees as the shape of it and how it works?
Which is really interesting, because that red light that I mentioned, I had apocalyptic dreams, not the same, but kind of almost like a warning of it back when I was like 16, 17.
Oh.
This is the last time I saw that light in a dream. So anyways, there's still a lot farther we can go. Maybe not done here.
Oh, no, I think there is a lot more. And sometimes getting into why the dream presented itself in this specific form with these specific images gives you an understanding of, as I was saying, the shape, the dimensions, the functioning of this problem as you conceive it. And getting a look at those inner workings lets you kind of pick it apart and say, okay, if I add that, and then I put that there, and I put this here, I got a teeter-totter. And now you can see the whole thing, and well, if I step on one end, the other end goes up, and do I want to do that or not? But that is interesting too, that you were able to draw that connection together with the last time you saw an apocalyptic red light was when you were 16, and that
was almost 10 years ago.
And it's likely that image, that experience, that iconic imagery stuck with you to represent something specific from that time. And it may just be exactly that feeling of something apocalyptic, something world ending. Not to dig too much into your childhood or your past, but were there changes that happened around 16 in your living situation, in the stability of your life, new experiences?
Oh, I was all over the map at that age. All over the map. I've always been in between my mom and my dad's places because they were separated. So there was kind of different places, but
gotcha.
Trying to think, I know all my friends changed around that time. I was kind of just a sporty little jock guy, and then eventually I was just like, these guys are all assholes or whatever. And then I went the complete opposite direction and turned into a total little hippie commie or whatever. And I mean, full on. Like if Antifa was going on back then, like it is today, I'm sure I would have been smashing,
Gotcha.
lighting shit on fire and that sort of stuff.
Well,
I know for a fact I would have been.
That's a pretty radical change in worldview. It's the end of one worldview and the beginning of another. Apocalyptic stuff. What am I trying to say about that? There's always an apocalypse on the horizon. The way I understand these things is there's, if you get from the biblical context, there is the end of the world and Jesus comes back and no more earth. I understand that metaphorically. I don't know that there is ever going to be an end times and the resurrection. It's not my faith system, but that metaphor of the end of a cycle. There will always be another cycle and another end of the cycle. It's leaning more into the Eastern yin yang reincarnation type of things. But the idea of the 8-hour workday is a cycle. It begins when you wake up and you get your coffee and you get in the car and you go to the work and you do the thing and then you come home and you go to bed, and it's the day-night cycle. It's the yearly seasons. It's getting married is an apocalypse. It's the end of one world and the beginning of a new world. It's not a bad thing. A lot of people think, oh my God, the end of the world apocalypse is necessarily tragic or catastrophic. It just means you've opened a door, entered a new space, and the door closes and you can't go back. You can never be the same as you were when you existed in that prior world. This is all my metaphorical stuff around that. So if you've got this huge life-changing perspective shift in your mind of seeing the world in a new way, changing your friend group, it is the end of something and the beginning of something new. So there's very much, I think, a connection between those two things. You're now in another... I don't know if you on Twitter. I've been following this tweeter called. They just tweet liminal spaces. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I know what it means.
Fair enough. A liminal. So there's you've probably heard the idea of subliminal, like subliminal advertising. They're trying to speak to your mind without you realizing it at a conscious level. So there's that aspect of it. So liminal is the limit. It's where we get the word limit from. It's you pass one point and now you're on to another. The racetrack where they begin is the line. They cross the finish line. That's a limit. The liminal space is between the border between one thing and another. Rambling again today. I had a point with that. Liminal spaces. Fuck. Oh, yeah, these apocalyptic world changing, stepping from one thing to another. So it very much makes sense that a dream like this would be coming to you when you're at another liminal space. You're actually seeing some kind of a finish line in front of you, but you don't know what's beyond it. You just know the finish line is coming. Something is going to stop being what it was and it's going to start being something else. And very often that is subliminal in our subconscious. We get the impression that something is recognizable, but we haven't put it into words in our conscious mind in that way. We haven't fully fleshed it out and identified it and know what to do with it. You know what to do with a bowling ball. You know what to do with an apple. Sometimes you're holding something. First, I need to figure out what the hell this thing is, and then I need to decide how I feel about that and what I want to do with it. Yeah, that's my rant. Fascinating conversation about we haven't even gotten past you're in a house, you see a light. That's good stuff. But I'm on page 2, like Paul Harvey. Page 2. Oh, that guy. If anyone out there listening is, what is it, a millennial, I guess? You were born anytime after 2000 or even before. Paul Harvey.
I don't think.
Check out that guy.
Yeah, we used to hear him on the radio all the time.
Yeah, and there's folks that are that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like the people born after 9/11. Like into this different world. I think they just stopped putting him on the radio. He used to be on the radio all the time, and maybe he is in certain places. And
I think for us, you had to be on the, I think on the AM radio to hear him. So I'd only ever hear him on the school buses with the old school drivers who wanted to listen to him.
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate they don't play him much on, say, NPR in America. National Public Radio. Unfortunately, not a fan of Paul Harvey. Make of that what you will. You can find a lot of stuff. Oh, was it Akira the Don? Shout out to Akira the Don. Love that guy. He does musical mashups of important philosophical concepts with awesome chill beats. Great guy. He's done, what does he call it? He calls them Meaning Wave. Yeah, shout out to Akira the Don and Meaning Wave. I know who you're talking about now. He's done Alan Watts, Jordan Peterson, Paul Harvey. He's got a ton of them up there, and it's great. Jocko Willink, Marcus Aurelius Meditations. He's got some. I mean, this is great, like inspirational stuff. If you've never heard, I'll say it again. Akira the Don, Akira, Akira, guy out of I don't know, somewhere in England. Can't remember exactly, but I had to point to all that too. Paul Harvey.
I'm clearly not helping you stay
no,
on track.
No, that's okay. I was rambling. It was all that whole the last 2 or 3 minutes of nonsense came from just page 2, because he would do part of a story. Page 2 was he would do some advertisement, and now the rest of the story. I cannot do a Paul Harvey impression. Okay, you're in the house. And you're in the, so your first impression is, you're in the house, but you're in the kitchen. And do you have, are you seeing this out of your eyes, or are you seeing a scene third person where you're in another room, but you're actually watching a different experience?
I think I'm very much in my body.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is hopefully we don't take off on a tangent, but I could remember as a kid, much more of my dreams were from an outer body, a bird's eye view perspective. Yeah. And as I got older, and I could actually look at the dreams I was having. I have a pretty distinct memory of being a child and even my dreams. And I'm pretty sure I could trace that difference to around the time that my theory of mind would have been developing. Which I think is super interesting because, around, 3 and 4, my dreams, I was always outer body. Right. And at that time, I thought that people I thought that I was the only one that could see through my eyes and that everyone else saw the world from that bird's eye view perspective or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
And that was between 4 and 5, I was like, what does this mean? Why does everyone else see that way, but I don't? And then, it was around, 5 and stuff that I was like, oh no, that's foolish. But it's actually super, I think, pretty interesting because I could track that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think
that is a fascinating connection.
Totally correlated.
Yeah. And there's an idea that goes with that too, is sometimes that comes and goes in dreams. There will be, I think within the same dream, I talked to one person where part of it was through their own eyes and part of it was watching themselves third person. And part of it, they're actually seeing omniscient third person, other people doing other things. And it's all perfectly real in our dreams. It's all equally real. In that sense, I say this as well too.
And I definitely have both in certain dreams. I just remembered that my earliest dreams, which I still remember super clearly, and the way I saw the world, they were always coming from that bird's eye view perspective. Whereas as I got older, there was a lot more through my body or whatever.
That would be a fascinating thing to say, poll people on. Do you remember having more third person visions of yourself in dreams when you were younger, below a certain age? Probably going to be a lot. That's
hard though. Some people have a hard time even just remembering their childhoods. Like my stepbrother, I'll ask him, hey, you remember this as a kid? He said no. And then he told me just a couple of years ago, he's like, man, I don't remember anything before I was 8 years old, really. And I'm thinking, I met the guy, my stepbrother, when I was 4 years old. I remember sitting in the tub and him shitting in the tub. I never, he was 3, I was 4. I was like, I don't want to bath with this guy. He's shitting in the tub all the time.
Yeah.
I could still remember that. It was like at 8, that's when he started remembering.
For sure. Memory's funny that way. There's a lot of people's lives are humdrum enough that there's not much to remember. And sometimes our brains just don't hold on to a lot of stuff. They get filled with other stuff later. There's so many confounding factors that go into what we can remember, what's worth remembering, if our brain is programmed to store those things. There's a theory of mind out there that we never forget any experience. Every experience we have literally wires a path of neurons that grow in our brain in a specific pattern, and they're always there. It's just finding them again. Maybe sometimes there's roads we haven't traveled in so long that is there even any way to get there? That there physically should be, but how? And is it worth, that much effort? But yeah, I have memories going back to, it's spotty for me too. I do remember one episode when I was 5, and I knew I was 5 because it was at a specific house. And I think I remember an episode before that, little embarrassing thing, but speaking of shitting in the tub, I think I was about 2 years old, still in diapers, and I'm standing in the hallway of this house and poop my pants because, gotta poop. Time to, poop in the diaper. It's what you do when you're 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 3, I don't know, 2, it's somewhere in there. And I didn't like it. I'm like, ugh. So I reach in and I pull it out and I throw it on the carpet and then I run away. And the next thing I remember is my mom yelling my name, and probably because it was a little, I was aware of doing this thing that was nasty and touching it and on my hand, and I left it on the carpet, and my mom was mad. That made a memory. And now it's the earliest thing I can remember. The
earliest thing I can remember. Anyway, I digress as much as you, but
let's talk about whatever.
We'll get back to the dream and I'll try to stay on it. But my earliest memory, I was convinced was a dream for most of my life.
Yeah.
Right. I thought I had this memory where my mom and I were biking. I was on the little seat, on the back, strapped in, like very young or whatever, and that we fell over and some guy helped us up. And for years I thought it was a dream. Then as I was starting to read and stuff like that, I kind of was just like, maybe this was a memory or whatever. So I finally asked my mom. I think I was probably 16, 17 or whatever. Asked my mom, was like, did that happen? And she said, yeah, but the guy didn't help us up, he attacked us. Right, so we were on the bike, we were going up a ramp that leads onto the big bridge. There's a big river in our town, and we were going up the ramp, heading towards the ramp, going up the bridge, and it's kind of right along the river, so that's kind of where we have all our, kind of homeless scenes or whatever, is all along the river there. There's a train here, and there's a river on the other side, so there's a pretty big distance between them and cops. So anyways, that's just kind of where they end up gathering. This guy jumped out of the bushes at us or whatever, and my mama bear fought him off or whatever, right?
Yeah.
He came at us, and then she was like, "Stop the fuck back," or whatever, and scared him off. And that's my earliest memory. It was being attacked by this guy.
That's pretty intense,
and I thought it was a dream my whole life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And how do you know? You got to go back to asking. I believe I was unsure as well of that earliest memory of mine too. And I asked my mom at one point, and she's like, "Yeah, you did that." That's pretty funny. That's probably one of the most. I don't know. I can't even. 2 years old. I'm not even that embarrassed about it. It's not something I tell everybody. I'm going around going, "Hey,
it's not embarrassing.
Guess what I did when I was 2?"
Oh, it's on your show,
right? Forever and all time. This is out there. Benjamin the Dream Wizard is the poop flinger. Technically true. Gonna own that one. Return to monkey.
Yeah.
So you're in the kitchen, and do you have any strong impression of the environment, things you saw while what you were doing there? Anything. Doesn't matter.
Anyway, I can't remember if I was cooking or not, I can't remember what I was doing in the kitchen, but I could distinctly remember, I could hear that the TV was on, and that I kind of, it's like an L-shaped countertop or whatever, and I leaned back on the section that's facing the living room and TV. So that's all. I don't remember doing anything in the kitchen. I just remember being in the kitchen, hearing that the TV was on, that this woman was watching TV, and I kind of leaned on the counter to watch it.
So that was going to be my next question. From where you were in the kitchen, you could actually look out a doorway into the living room and see the television.
It was just a square. It was, like I said, it was a really basic house, right? It's
So
just
not
a
even a
square.
separation between the
There's
kitchen
kind
and
of
the
a
living
kitchen
room?
in this corner, and not really, other than the couch. Because I think at another point in the dream, I ended up coming to the couch or whatever. So there's the L, and then there's a couch over here.
Okay,
right?
and then the television. So there was not even a wall. You're not looking through a doorway. It just you're in one contained space. Kind of like that. I lived in a little bungalow a few years, 15, 20 years back.
This place, sorry, you go on.
Well, I was just going to say it had a living room and then a door to the bedroom and then a door off the bedroom into a bathroom, and around the corner from the bathroom with the tub and whatnot was the laundry room. And then the laundry room had a door that led into the kitchen. The kitchen led back into the living room. It was just one little, I almost would have rather it had no walls except for the bathroom.
That's what this place is actually like. This little cottage I'm in, it's just straight. There's the kitchen, there's the living room, and then there's like there's stairs that go up to the bedrooms upstairs, but it's almost like a little ladder type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would pull down from an attic or whatever.
Oh yeah. And that's kind of what I've got going on in this space right here. This is my garage. It's like 24 by 30 or something like that. So I've got, if you can see, this is, you actually can't see it on my video, but you can see it in the background here. This mirror is set up. This used to be my martial arts studio. I had those blue foam mats in here. I could roll around, and in the corner over there used to be hanging a punching bag and whatnot. And then I got old and fat and said, fuck it, I'm just gonna turn it into my home office. So, and that's my bed back there. So I just sleep there. I walk about 20 feet over, and here's my desk and my computer set up. And that's what I was saying, in the mirrors you can kind of see there's my two monitors, and and this you can barely see it. Where is it? Let me go right here. That's a bedside lamp, but it's also a little light over my head. I kind of leave that on sometimes, like bing, like a light bulb going on. I don't know, my little superstition. Maybe it'll help me concentrate. So you're in this space, and you don't know what you're doing in the kitchen, but you're in the kitchen, and that's interesting too. It's like, why would you not put yourself on the couch sitting with the woman? Why were you not walking through the front door at the moment that happened? There's something about putting yourself in the kitchen. What do I try to say about that with folks? Is usually the place you put yourself says something about the perspective you are looking out from. So there's something about this kitchen space. You're in the mindset of the kitchen space, which is why you put yourself there, and you're seeing this scene from inside that perspective in a way. I don't have more to say about it than that, but just hang on to that idea a little bit. Like, why the kitchen? What is it about the kitchen? People have different associations with it. You let it percolate. It's not crazy. Not crazy important that we nail it down immediately. So there's a woman on the couch, and the impression you got is that you're in a relationship with this person of some kind. Okay.
Yeah.
Any distinguishing features? I mean, you're seeing her from behind, obviously, blonde hair, ponytail, whatever.
I think she did have blonde hair, like straight blonde hair.
Okay.
But I can't be certain.
No, fair enough. No, that's okay. We don't have to hang out. We're not going to hang out.
Like I said, I've had this dream a bunch, and some of the versions don't have her. Sometimes it's just the news, but it's almost always I'm in that kitchen or whatever. I hear the news. But yeah, anyways, I can't really remember her. She wasn't someone that I specifically knew or could say, "Oh, that's this person."
Yeah, that'd be my next question too. It reminds you of anyone?
Single guy. I don't even say I'm crushing on anyone right now. I'm pretty just doing my own thing right now. So I have no idea who she was, other than apparently she was my wife and or girlfriend.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's probably hi, Peanut Butter. You want to come up? No, he wants me to play with his baby or let him outside. Not right now. And that's interesting. I mean, that raises the stakes in a way. And that's the first thing that came to my mind. The idea that if it's not just you, if it's going to affect someone more than you, that makes it more impactful, more important. in some way. Gives an extra sense of tragedy or urgency to the situation. The idea that it's not just me. I mean, in one sense, you're not dying alone, or going through the experience alone. Maybe that's an aspiration of yours to be in a relationship, even if you have to confront something, or the idea that, okay, if you want up, that's fine. Come here. Here's peanut butter. Hi, boo-boo. You thought of something?
Oh, I think probably both those things are accurate. I would like to have a partner or whatever. I've definitely come to the place in my life where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to date, again, without the intention being to, create a relationship. You know what I mean? For life. Like, I'm not going to have a fling or just date someone. I would never date someone who said I would never want to have children. If someone ever said, oh, I don't want, if I was on a date with someone, they said, I don't want to have children, I would be like, and finish the date, say it was nice meeting you, but this isn't going anywhere else or whatever. Gotcha. And then also the part about it implicating other people, that, I've been thinking about that sort of stuff a lot. Developing more of a faith and a practice in my faith right now or whatever. And that's kind of one of the things that you mentioned earlier, this idea that, that some people are thinking that you never actually truly forget anything or whatever, right? Which is, or parts of you, like your parts of your brain might make those connections, even though so much of your consciousness is focused to push the rest out and focus in on the object you're trying to look on. There's still all those other things inform the whole, right? So, and the part where I'm saying they're lying, that's part of the thing is, it's like, if I tell a lie, I'm not lying just to whoever I'm lying to. I'm lying to myself and to God and to everyone, right? I'm trying to reform reality in my own image when I lie, right? So I think that you did step onto something there where it's like the stakes are higher, and the dream has told me, like, and I'm saying it's a lie. There's not an asteroid. There's not another outbreak of COVID or whatever it is. There's a bomb in the sky, right? Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Not that I don't want to get too religious or whatever to scare people off, but it is. I have really been trying to develop a closer connection with God, and that's something I think about a lot, right?
Yeah, and if that's
so the partner thing and that the stakes are higher. I'm almost thinking it's like what I'm doing is not even just for me. It's for, it's for the world or whatever, right? It's for, anyways, not to, I think you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. And you haven't seen this episode lately, because of course you watch every one. The one I'm going to be releasing next week, or the one I just dropped this week, but it won't be on until, like, this won't go up until next week, but the one I'm doing our time, Thursday, I talked with a Christian guy, and I explained to him, and I'll say it again, it doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what those symbols mean to you in your own dream. So there is, in a very real way, there's no wrong answer in a sense. There are inaccurate understandings perhaps, but if a symbol popped up because it's important to you, related to your faith, the faith foundation provides the understanding that's necessarily true if we hit upon something. So, yeah.
I'm just going to try to, for the rest of the podcast, I'm going to try to not think about the audience. We're going to have a conversation. I'm not going to think about what they care about. But be like, oh, maybe this is too religious. It's like, no, it's religious enough for me. And obviously you're on board.
No, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying too, is that, so if I'm speaking to someone who's very, the gal I talked to in my episode a couple weeks back, Mother Goddess, that was the direct translation of her name, which I'm not going to try and pronounce because I'm going to get it wrong, but she was big into yoga, Eastern meditation, the Hindu gods. That was her frame of reference. That was the imagery in her dream. Doesn't matter if I think that's real or I subscribe to that faith. It's all good. If someone's very focused on science and the scientific method, and they work in a laboratory, that's their foundation. That's going to inform the imagery they see, and we're going to draw connections from that. It's the only way to get, I think, to the correct or a useful understanding of something is to understand someone's perspective and why they think about things in a particular way. So yeah, for sure.
But I do think you nailed it with that. The stakes are higher. That this idea about wanting to be in a relationship too, or whatever, right? So both those things, I think for sure they hold.
Yeah, definitely. And if you remember, I mean, the first thing we did before we even started describing the house and who was on the couch, we're like literally two dream elements. I was in a house, something was on TV, there was a woman on the couch. We're three pieces of like 20 into the thing. And no, for sure. And what I said back then was, okay, let's say we nailed it with the idea of you're at a liminal space and you're thinking about changes. Now we're getting into the details. What is on your mind regarding how to understand where you're at and what you feel like it is you want to do or should do about that situation? So we're getting into this stuff of, you know, you're looking at, you're in the kitchen, which we haven't nailed down a specific meaning, but broadly speaking, kitchens, you know, hearth and home is kind of the expression. It is very often the heart of a home, where people gather to eat. So it's family. Food is necessary sustenance. Some people might be like, you know, like the kitchen's on my mind. I don't cook, but that's where I do projects at the kitchen counter. I do this specific kind of project. So if that's what it meant to you, we'd go that direction. But there's all the kind of universal human understanding of kitchen. So you're looking out from that very hearth and home perspective, the heart of the home, looking out now at someone you care about, the concept that you want someone in your life. They're being misinformed. They're not being told the truth, and the truth is important to you. So you're going to let them know that's not true. Don't believe that. You're going to correct a misunderstanding for the sake of someone you care about. All of these things say a lot about you as a person and how you're looking at this situation. And I think we spent a little bit of time talking about the idea that it was an asteroid in this particular dream. So it's another catastrophic earth changing, and they're telling people to stay home, which is interesting. I don't want to get too much into I don't even know if we can mention the disease which shall get thee demonetized shouldst thou challenge the narrative.
It really still does. Hey, would your show get? Oh, I guess you haven't monetized.
I'm not monetized yet, but that's one of those
would
things.
Would they pay attention? Do they just do that algorithmically, or you just don't want to play with that?
I'm a little cautious on that, just because they've been so draconian about it. You know, even if I say this is just a dream, none of this actually happened. We're talking about completely imaginary stuff. I think it might come through with the, you know, they do this auto subtitles, and I think of like, oh, he mentioned the COV.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Man, so I don't think you mentioning it once is a big deal. But I certainly wouldn't want to get into putting, what am I trying to say? What's a clever way to say it? Challenging the narrative in ways that just caused unnecessary problems. Regardless of what my true feelings are, doesn't matter. Just you ask the wrong question or make the wrong hypothesis, and some people don't like it. It's where we are right now. Hopefully that'll change. Yeah. I don't know. With Elon buying Twitter, hopefully that'll change.
Hopefully it does, because recently, I mean, I won't get too far into it for more political reasons, but I said something recently on Twitter that was just like, I was like, this is mental illness, basically. And I'm sure people know this is going on or whatever, but that tweet was I was locked out of my Twitter in under 10 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I said, this is mental illness or whatever, right? Boom. And it must have been under 10 seconds, I'm sure. Like, next thing I know, my screen was locked out and it says under careful review. It's like, under careful review, it's obviously algorithmic.
Nobody
like, it had
could
to
have just seen that fast and responded to
no
it.
one.
No,
not
no
one. So it's interesting what you said about YouTube and maybe them using the auto-generated subtitles. I never even thought about that, because I was thinking, how do they flag all this stuff if you're just saying, if any Joe Schmo just says, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? And what was it? You know, it was quite a while back. I had an episode where I was talking to a gal and her mom who do their own dream interpretation thing, where just the daughter tells the mom about the daughter's dreams and the mom and her talk about them. fascinating to have them on my show and give a different perspective on a dream that they'd already discussed, but I hadn't heard about yet, and where our ideas lined up and where they might have been different, giving them new insight. Long story short, they mentioned they were going to pick up their daughter from college because the college had been shut down related to lockdowns for reasons, and bring her home. So I don't think any of that stuff was controversial in any way. But if we're going to mention the television not telling the truth, then it's probably better to focus on the asteroid just because it's less of a challenge to the
precautionary measures.
I hate it. I try to follow Tim Pool's lead on a lot of this. He seems really savvy on the how to phrase things and how to stay out of trouble, unfortunately, until we no longer have to worry about that. And so it is self-censoring to a way. I'd rather speak freely, but you know, it's
not that I'm not trying to shit on you. It's just, it goes back to the dream. That's what it's where I'm at all the time or whatever. Right.
Oh yeah. No. And there's a big deal with the oppression of self-censoring, because you're going to lose your voice if you phrase something wrong. And that's one thing I really appreciated about, Jordan Peterson's advocacy is like, you got to let people just say stupid shit and wrong stuff. Cause sometimes we need to think out loud and be wrong. And then someone can say, I don't think you meant to phrase it that way. What about this? Or I think you're wrong and here's why. And then you can listen to their feedback. And that's how we figure out what the truth is. Like, if you can't challenge it, it's not science, in my opinion. Challenge that if you want, that kind of thing. So it is very frustrating. And that's, it's also very frustrating too. And the frustration would show up in the dream is like, we're supposed to be able to ideally trust our reporters. Someone is just honestly telling you what they see, but this is not the case. We've got a recent situation where there's a lot of questions on who's telling the truth, and for what reason would they lie if they are. So we've got that expression of frustration coming out in this, at the very least, the expression of a frustration of not knowing who to trust, or knowing that sometimes the people we should be able to trust are not trustworthy, or discovering they're not trustworthy, or there's something going on there too, which is, it can be nothing more earth shaking than it's just a realistic frustration from real life. So, where was I going with that too? I did want to focus a little bit. So you're one of the few folks, and it happens and it doesn't happen, who see color in dreams. There's a lot of people who never mention color at all, but you've got the red, you've got this gal, it's blonde hair. Okay. Here's something that happens sometimes. Like, also when I'm in that kitchen too. Yeah. Sorry, I'll let you go on. But there, like I said, at the start of the dream, there's kind of this dull yellow light coming in, like early morning, seen through the clouds, kind of like, imagine, a dusty home in a kind of overcast day or whatever, that dull yellow. It's bright, but it's kind of dull at the same time. I don't even know how to put it. Yeah. It is interesting that's where I was going with it too, is like sometimes the quality of that light, I play some video games and they distinguish a kind of blue light from a kind of yellow light in morning, afternoons, kind of how they depict the sun coming up versus the sun going down. I think it's more typical, the yellowish hue versus the white blue hue. Yellowish is usually dusk, sunset. It's probably, I was going to say, I said morning, but dusk is probably more accurate. Well, the fact that you said morning may mean that's how you conceived of it, but it is, again, it's suggesting another liminal space. The idea of dusk and dawn being transition points between a new day. You're waking up to start the day, or it's the end of the day, you're going back to sleep. Wonderful. I said morning to just describe the picture of that light in my head. But when I jumped on dusk, is because I probably think it probably was dusk. Okay. Like it probably was that time. Like it wasn't in the morning in the dream, I don't think. Not that I had any reference point. It was just kind of like, oh, this is during the day. This is around the end of the day or something like that, right? Yeah. Yet more iconography of transition point, or being on the cusp of something new. That's why I love the yin yang. It's probably I describe it as one of the oldest names for God. People trying to understand the world, what it is, how it works, what the truth. I consider the yin yang, like before we had language, written language, which is basically, I make the letter A, I put it next to the letter M, and before you know it, you've got Amy, and that's the name of a person. Before we had those symbols that made sounds, we had just symbols, and those were our words. That's how we spoke, is this symbolic language. So it's order and chaos. It's day and night. It's up and down, left and right, in and out. It's all the balance of opposites. That's my rant on that. I
quite love the Taoist tradition.
Oh yeah, and then there's that liminal space right between the two where that meets, where they meet. Yeah, that's that.
The energy serpent that runs through your spine, right?
Yeah, I know. Just a few episodes back, I had another guy who actually his dream was pulling out a serpent that was nested against his spine.
That was a great one.
That was amazing. I am never disappointed by the stories. People tell me these stories and we get into them. I'm like, I've never been bored by one of these conversations, not once. It's harder for me to focus some days. I have more or less caffeine. It's earlier, it's later. Yeah. Sometimes I'm off my game. Today I'm rambling.
Probably depends on your guest too. I know I can be all over the place. Like I said, I got to keep you on that dream, and like just keep being like here, there, here's this thread, here's the.
And some folks are more responsive. Some folks are more spontaneous, putting pieces together themselves. That's okay. I work with it all, and there's no judgment on anyone. But it's always good when I'm kind of the connections in my brain are coming easier than they do other times. And the guest is like, oh, and let me tell you this, bam, let me get this kind of synergy where it's like, we're really getting somewhere more than I could do on my own. It's definitely a collaboration. I'm not here to give answers so much as to help find the answers together, in that way. So it's always how I conceptualize my process. You mentioned that her response to what was on the television, we'll say Asteroid, was to panic. So
did I say that?
I wrote down she panic, or you didn't want her to panic, and that's why you spoke up and said, no, that's a lie, to help keep her calm. You take your time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
No. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Do you remember?
I just don't remember any I don't remember any dialogue. She's probably shocked, right? And like,
did she?
Oh my God! Like,
turn around and look at you. Did she jump up and start running around the house? Any response from her behaviorally?
I don't remember. I think she did panic. Like, it's just, like I said, I was in the kitchen, the news was coming, I could see her just like, oh my God, like, she panicked. Yeah.
Fair enough.
She's kind of in shock, like breathing heavier, like, oh, what are we going to do? They say to, tuck your head between your legs and pray for the best or whatever. And
I'm saying, well, from the 1940s.
Not only is it an asteroid's coming, but it's actually they shot the bloody asteroid. But anyways,
you had a sense that the asteroid was caused by something.
Well, like I said, I just knew it was a lie, and I go and I look outside, and it wasn't an asteroid; it was an A-bomb.
It was something that they had done, whoever they are. Yeah. So the reason I'm not trying to nail you down any specifics, but the sequence of events might be interesting. Sometimes, I was going to say earlier, you seeing the imagery of a specific behavior enacted by a person is the same as simply knowing the person is having an internal experience. And what I mean by that is you could see the image of her visibly panicking and breathing deep, and that's perfectly true. And you could also see no reaction from her and just know inside she's panicking, because you have this omniscience of your dream world. You can know and see anything, and it's all equally true. So I was trying to nail down
like that much information could be transmitted just through eye contact. We could have just looked at each other and know, oh my God, she is
for sure
breaking up right now.
Yeah,
You know?
or nothing at all. You just simply look at that, and because you know her, you know this is how she responds to this type of news. So the reason I was trying to tease it out a little bit was to say your attention was grabbed by the announcement. It directed your attention to also consider how it was going to affect this person, but you don't remember speaking anything directly to them. Just knowing how they felt, or maybe even seeing a behavioral display of emotional state.
Yeah, I think there was some exchange. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, I think there was some announcement about what you should do. That there's, go to the basement or whatever it was. Or
I wrote down everyone should stay home. That was something.
Yeah, they said stay home because the asteroid doesn't go through walls or whatever.
Right? It's not going to
anyways, that's what they said.
Not going to make a crater.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's another great example too of if this is iconic of the transitional point you're at in your life, you're going to get a lot of information thrown at you. In terms, so the fact that this is the news regarding an asteroid and it's not true is actually maybe secondary to the idea that because you're on the cusp of change, you're trying to sort through what you should do, and you're going to realize that you're going to get a lot of advice that may not be accurate, or you might have difficulty sorting out what's your best path, who to trust in a way. I don't know, is that general concept making sense?
Yeah.
Or not just sense, but does it resonate with like, what am I trying to say? Where you feel like you're at right now, like you're not really sure which path to pick, and you're not sure who to go to for advice.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like for sure. Like I know that I'm going my own way just with my career or whatever. Like, am I going to go work for myself? Am I going to find some other employer? Am I even going to stay in this freaking trade? Like, I don't know if I even want to be in this trade. There's so many other things I'd like to do, or whatever, right? Like if I could spend my day writing, that would be great, or whatever, right? But how do you do that? And then also on top of that, so I don't want to go too political, I guess, but like I don't know where I could go in this country, right? Whether if I'm in Kamloops or Salmon Arm or Kelowna, it's like, where do I go? Like, it's, they can take your kids if you don't give them drugs that chemically castrate them or whatever, right? They can do that. It's in the law now or whatever, right? Now they're
not just
taking their guns. And
Bill C-16 compulsive speech.
Though that was years ago. You should see what they're piling on top of it now. We're gonna have a full-on race Marxist inquisitorial squad that has complete overreach of all branches of government to make sure they follow these DEI guidelines or whatever, right?
And no coincidence they're trying to collect all the handguns.
No coincidence.
Wow.
And then so what if I do? So I'm thinking, well, where the hell am I going to go? I'm going to jump the fence, the United States, because they won't let me out because I haven't had this experimental drug, which is actually if you look at our actual COVID policies, it's illegal. It's illegal in our COVID policies to force someone to even take the test. It's illegal to put something into their body without their... It's
supposed to be. Yep.
It's even in our COVID policies to enter the country. You can just say no. If they say, let me jam this thing up your nose, you can say no. And they can't even tell you. So whatever they're enforcing it's illegal. And so anyways, I'm at the place where it's like, well, where the fuck do I go? I jumped the fence to the States or whatever, and it's like, yeah. Not that I love the States. I think there's a little American in me trying to get out, really. But at the same time, it's like, well, the fight's still going on down there too.
Yeah, we're having our own problems. It's not a perfect solution.
Fighting, proxy wars across the ocean. Right.
Yeah. No, anyway, we got 40 billion for Ukraine, but not for, I don't know. School security is the biggest thing lately with that whole situation. It's like priorities, man. Why are we got to get our shit together before we can save the world, really.
Yeah.
And it's not because, no, it's not because people don't want to save the world. Of course I do too. But we got our own problems, and I don't think we're doing us or anyone else any good not fixing our problems. So, I mean, you'd be, as far as I'm concerned, you'd be welcome, but if you were to do so, I'd say probably stick with some of the border states near you. Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, they seem to be a little more free. I wouldn't go too far east or west, or can't recommend anyone move to Oregon. Even Eastern Oregon is still in Oregon, which suffers from Portland, Oregon political policy. So
I love this country too. I have to say that I love Canada. Like when I say there's a little American in me trying to get it out, that's just because I love your Constitution and I love your foundational writings. Like before the Bible was my Bible, that was my Bible. That and the Gulag Archipelago. I read that shit for years over and over. That's
wow. You're braver than me. That I can't. It's so heartbreaking what people went through. Yeah. You got to know it. You got to know it. You can't ignore it. But I couldn't put myself through it. So I read about it. I couldn't actually read it. I'm too sad. It
took the first time I worked through that book. It was a grueling task. It took me months just to get past the first chapter.
Oh yeah.
And that was of the abridged version too. And it's just because the central theme, it runs through the entire book. And, I was reading in the arrest, he's basically saying, well, you got arrested and it's your fault because you didn't scream, they're taking me, or whatever, right? And then I just toiled over that for months before I could even get onto the second victim chapter.
Blaming. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways.
Just to bookend it, I would much rather you have all the American freedoms where you're at and you don't have to leave the country you love and the people. I've actually talked about this before, and this is just my theory. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I probably said it on Twitter. Speaking of which, if anybody follows me on Twitter, it's a lot more political there than I ever get in these videos. It's the most I've ever talked about current events. But it's all relevant to your experience. You're in this liminal space. This is all relevant to the dream. So I'll talk about anything. My proposal just is, let's say the people of Gambia in West Africa are fantastic people and they love America and they want to be more like us. Let's take a vote, offer them statehood. You want to be our 51st state? Bam. That's it. Now they're part of America. The nation of Gambia, 51st state, because it's smaller than Texas. I mean, we could add states all over the place. First, Puerto Rico, American Samoa, Guam, add all those as territories, as states. And then why bomb countries when we just go, hey, want to be American? Take a vote. And bam, done. And I would like to see us do that. I'd like to see us do that with Canada.
For sure. You don't need to kick out their politicians and put your own ones in. Just say, hey, you, politician, can be a part of this. Yeah. But this is what you need to accept.
Yeah. Just understand it means you are now under the Constitution and the federal government, which I think our federal government needs to be about 10% of the size it is currently. That's a big difference. It should be mostly states, but in that I think the form and the philosophy is what's important. There's a lot of people out there that are like, I'm more of a civic nationalist, definitely not the ethno-nationalist. I don't think America was created as a white country and should stay a white country. That's why I'm like, let's add Gambia as the 51st state. Do it. I'm fine with it. Let's add Ukraine as a state. Now it's a state of America. Now we're going to have a military base there and defend them. Perfectly fine with me. But just all of this started with, trying to save the world and shipping millions of dollars around. Make it a state. They want a protection. Join America. Become one with us. And now you're part of the group. And then of course we have a responsibility to defend a state of America from invasion. Damn right. But long story short, we were talking about the news and response to the news and the idea of offering not consolation, to console, but offering consolation and support to a partner who's rendered in a state of panic. And this leads you to actually look outside and go, I'm going to verify this. So part of you is saying, I don't just trust what I hear, what I'm told. I'm going to see for myself. So you're like, I got a suspicion this may not be accurate. I'm going to investigate do my due diligence and go see for myself. And you're showing yourself this image of success in that process. You trust your gut, challenge the status quo, trusting the news or whatever, and you go see for yourself, and you are rewarded with the truth. You see, this is not what they said it was. This is something else. This is a problem they caused. And can you say a little bit about how you moved from the kitchen to going outside?
I was just thinking about all of that. Yeah. I never sat down at once in the dream. I was always standing. So like in the kitchen, I was standing, and then I leaned back on the counter to watch the news. And then I went to the couch, and I think I did this and kind of sat on the edge of the couch as the news was going on, and kind of, like I said, then went to console her. And then I was just like, no, this is wrong. This is a lie. Like, they're not. I did say to her something along the lines of like, this is they're not telling the truth. This isn't what's happening. And then I walked over to the window and then looked out the window. So
you looked out the window, but you didn't actually go outside yet?
No.
At any point in the dream or later?
Depends how you define outside. Probably at the point that we were vaporized, we were all outside.
Technically true. Okay, so no actual experience of opening the door and leaving the house.
Totally pedantic. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Fair enough.
Just a joke. Yeah, we're inside the house the whole dream. And then that red light.
Fair enough. Yeah. So you went, and it is interesting that it changed from this yellow light of dusk into the explosive red laser light of this catastrophic damage. And did you see the explosion coming for you, and then like the moment you would have been wiped out, you woke up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any experience of seeing the missile? Anything stand out?
I don't know if I necessarily saw it flying, but I saw it exploding. Like, it was like, I don't know what they call them, but when they because they typically blow them up in the air, right? To have the bigger blast.
Sometimes they hit, but sometimes, they.
I guess they've only done it technically twice, but I think that's the idea of a lot of them, is to blow them up in the air to have a bigger blast. I don't know, but
yeah, no, it
was in the air.
I think that's a valid theory. That's not valid theory. That's something I've heard is done. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so,
but yeah, I don't remember seeing a rocket or anything, but I just remember, like, there's that light, as if more of them are going off, right? This is only one localized one, but there's that red light is everywhere. That yellow dusky light is gone or whatever. It's that, laser pointer, sun through your skin kind of weird red light it's all encompassing. Like, it's in the sky. It's kind of coming in through the windows.
For sure.
Like I said, like there are other events going on, and then I see the one is, a big round ball.
The one that's going to take you out. Yeah.
Comes right for us.
Yeah.
And it almost looked like, you ever see those footages of the old, bomb tests in the United States, those black and white footage where they put up all those makeshift towns and you just see it going away. Yeah. It looked like that. Like, I could see all just the houses. Like, it's episodic, but I do remember seeing, boards, walls, windows, all this kind of just flying, and this red light and kind of, fireball just absorb us. And that's when I'm at the window. At some point, I'm holding her. I'm watching this out the window as I'm holding her. Yeah. So at some point, she's come off the couch to see probably what I'm looking at. I'm like, it's a lie,
Yeah, for sure. There's some more powerful imagery in that too, as well as like she's trusting you. You're protecting her with your arms. You're holding on to each other at this final critical moment.
Yep.
You're going to experience it together.
At some point, I tell you, yeah, this is it. Or something like that, right? I'm like, this is like, they're lying. We're all, I think at some point I say it's a war. Or I was like, they're lying. It's a war, is what I say.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that fits with a lot of the stuff we've been talking about in terms of feeling you and me both out of control of our respective governments and the social situation and change is being forced upon us in a lot of ways, and whether people are telling the truth about situations. And in the middle of all this, you're like, I need to figure out where I'm going with my life. What are the best possible decisions for me to make here and now so that I can deal with these problems? And it seems like from the story arc of the dream is like, imagine you're in this hearth and home, and you've got this broader overarching transitional point in your life represented by being in this house that is temporary. You're going to have to leave. You're going to have to make a decision at some point. You can put it off for a month or two, the seasons change, but you better have a plan by then. So you're already thinking ahead. What am I going to do? So this recurring dream comes to you, in my estimation, because you haven't settled on a path forward yet. And the specific imagery we've got going through all this is iconic of the world situation, making it more difficult to make a decision, but also I think it's a multi-layered imagery in terms of macro level and your microcosm of life. Big picture style, it's hard to know where to go. Smaller picture style, it's hard to know whose advice to take on what you should want or what you should do to where you should end up after the transition. I think there's kind of multi layers packed into that situation, and that either way it's going to be catastrophic. Wrong word, but either way it's going to be apocalyptic, world changing. Yeah. Well, I think we covered the whole thing. Were there any specific images that you mentioned or that you've thought of as we've been talking and that we didn't spend enough time on, or that I missed completely? I should ask that.
No,
more often.
It was really quite episodic. There wasn't a whole lot of things changing or whatever. I'm in the kitchen, and the hearth and home, I kind of didn't give it too much thought at first, but I was in the kitchen. I love cooking. One of my favorite, I've said it a million times. I was like, there's no better place to dance than in the kitchen. I love just cranking tunes. I have my time or whatever while I'm making some food or my coffee, and the dog's watching me. I sing songs to him or whatever. I just serenade him all day long, and it is all in the kitchen or whatever. Right? That's my favorite place to dance.
Yeah, it's a very happy place to be. So you're
and there was
yourself,
that different light, that warmer light, not searing red light or whatever. It's kind of dull or whatever, but it's that yellow, kind of warm yellow light coming in through the glass or whatever. Yeah.
For me, I've always liked dusk, nightfall more than morning. Morning is like, I gotta get up and do things. And then there's a busy long day. But dusk is like, it's over. It's all behind us. It's relaxation time. It's time to do something else. And eventually you just get to lay down and go to sleep. My favorite time, that nightfall. Nighttime's always been associated with more positive things for me. It's like the dark and the quiet.
No, I'm a creature of the night as well. I've always, definitely an artist and writer and stuff like that. And it's always been my most productive time. Is night.
That's sure. Yeah.
That's when the bug bites me.
Yep. And it's a good thing that's the case, because you can kind of work in the daytime because you put food on the table, and then let that creativity out when it naturally wants to come out anyway. It's very good. And I would encourage you to do that. As what was that advice? Someone said, how do I be a writer? And this person said, you just write. You just do it. And eventually, you sell it or you get better at it or something. My process is a little more with the historical dream literature. I'm doing, it's almost entirely editing. These are not original works, original compositions, anthologies, sometimes significant changes. I took one book. It was book 2, The Mystery of Dreams. And there was a tremendous amount of Middle English, words spelled completely differently, phrasing of things. Like I almost had to translate Middle English into modern English. Then I also had to translate Latin into modern English with a lot of these passages that this guy was citing for his sermon. I was going somewhere with that. So it was almost like writing a whole new book based on source material, but so much changes to that. That one took me like 3 months, I think, back in the day. But eventually, so this is my training process for getting around to eventually working on my own original works. It's hard for me to gauge sometimes if my works are good. And a lot of writers get into this. It's like when you write it down the first time, you're inspired. This is amazing. You go back and you keep working on it, and it's like, now it's familiar. It doesn't feel amazing anymore. Now it feels boring. Is that just me? Or is this actually boring? I can't tell. So I lose that confidence in my own work sometimes. I almost rather be editing other people's works. Like, this is fascinating.
Yeah. You gotta be somewhat of a, yeah. Anyways.
Well, we could probably keep talking about all kinds of stuff forever. But if we covered the dream stuff, you feel pretty good about it now. The next question will be, does it
we covered it.
Change? Oh, did you want to go into relating it to any other recent experiences of the same type of being a recurrent dream phenomenon? I completely forgot all about that angle of it. Does it seem relevant to try and fit some more pieces together, or does it seem like what we arrived at applies naturally to the rest of it? Or
yeah, I think we got it pretty close. The only other thing I thought of was, I told you about that dream I had when I was like 16, and that's where I saw that same red light. And I'd say probably, even though I was kind of a little commie, Antifa type at the time or whatever, if you asked me now what my biggest fear is, and you asked me, when I was 12 what my biggest fear was, it always would have been nuclear war. That's one thing that's never changed. Some people always said, oh, spiders or critters and things. I was always just like, nuclear bombs. They don't even talk about those fucking things anymore. Like,
it's true. They haven't gone anywhere. They're still out there. Still the potential.
So there's that dream where it had the same light, and that's when I was kind of really starting to think that stuff and carry it around with me a little bit more or whatever. But other than that, recent events or things, I can't really think of anything else.
That's a huge worldview change that a lot of people maybe don't remember or put enough focus on sometimes, is going from very much your small world, your family, your school, your little life, and realizing there's actually a great big world out there, and you can affect it and it can affect you. And you start thinking beyond yourself and your tiny little bubble. And that's a apocalyptic change in our worldview as well. And that happens over and over again. I think we get our eyes open to things like, I never knew that was happening. I never knew that was a thing. And now I got to worry about that too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to unplug and just say, I got to worry about me for a minute and just do your thing. So, all right. Well, I really appreciate you being here and sharing with this. It's, for the folks out there, it's not that scary. We just talk. And, I always make this promise to people. If we get to the end of it and people don't want it released, nobody ever sees this. We did the thing. It was too personal. There's only two things I never talk about with folks. That is, dreams involving, sexual assault and child abuse. I consider those too important to handle in a public forum. Please go see a counselor in private to handle those things. But otherwise, I'll talk about anything, and hopefully we can make sense of it and people find it entertaining and educational. So, I appreciate you being here and being brave. And it's not everyone's comfortable putting their face on camera, that kind of thing. But I think
it is a little bit weird. I was really nervous beforehand. I've never really done camera stuff before, but it was good. I've been chill the whole time.
And I think it's a great thing too, is when people know, and I say this before I record, no one will ever see this if you don't want them to. I'll take it down for any reason. It's one of those things where it's like, this is not the Jerry Springer show. You're not coming on here to get embarrassed. And hopefully the experience should be fun. Most people I was nervous before, but that was great. Like, yes, that's the plan. That's the
plan. Yeah. Well, I was going to say too, I don't know if you have people back on.
Sometimes,
like I said, if we can, I don't know, so at some point we'll talk about it again, because I have other dreams this is the most recent one, so I thought that's where I should go. But
yeah,
and it's, like I said, it's pretty episodic, but there is a couple dreams that if we have the time, or if you want to do that again, that are probably a lot more in detail or whatever.
Yeah.
That there's probably a lot more to sift through or whatever, just they're older.
For sure.
If you wanted to, there's one in particular I'd really like to talk about.
Yeah, nice.
Whenever whenever that happens.
For sure. Yeah, there's two things. I try and keep it fresh. A new face every time if possible. But I've had people
Exactly.
I've had people on before, and
Yeah.
the second part of that is I haven't risen in popularity to the point where I'm overwhelmed with requests. So sometimes don't be surprised if,
Right.
a week, a month, two from now, I call you back and go, hey, you got time? I don't have a guest this week. So,
Yeah.
hopefully we will be able to do it again. And I definitely want to hear from you in terms of if these recurring dreams have changed at all. That'll be a big sign that we've got something right.
Yeah, well, mostly the part that changes is the TV. Right? Sometimes I don't even perceive there to be a TV there. Sometimes it's just like we're in the house because that's where we're supposed to be or whatever, right? And then I'm saying, oh, it's a lie or whatever, and I look out there. But sometimes the TV is not even there telling us that asteroid is coming or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and it might have
But
even
other than that, it's
changed.
mostly the same.
It might have even changed over time where, let's say, the first iteration of this dream had no TV, and your brain, when it got to that point in the story again, said, well, where's this coming from? Oh, TV. It throws a TV in there just to make the scenario feel more realistic. Like this is something that could actually happen. I'm not sure which way it goes there. But those changing elements, like I think the nature of the dream itself might change. Like you will either stop having it or you will start feeling more control over the situation because now you've kind of figured out what it is. And between now and the next time you have the dream, you'll probably process, let things percolate in the background. You'll be able to come up with at least hypotheses, suggestions of what you could do. And you might play those out in your mind. You might find yourself grabbing the girl and going, we'll be okay if we get in the basement, and you take action and something works to mitigate the disaster. That's another that would speak to, say, confidence in transitioning. Even if you don't know what to do beyond, let's get out of danger immediately. That's a step in a direction. That's making a decision and not just being the pure receiver of a catastrophic event happening to you. We'll see. I might have planted a seed there. We'll see if that actually happens. But probably better if you have your own suggestions.
It has been a little while since I've had that dream. I haven't had it for. I was having it every couple nights, every night for a while. Like when I first messaged you or commented on your post on Twitter, I think that I was having it a bunch then, but I haven't had.
Haven't had it lately?
Been at least 3 or 4 days, or something like that. But I was having it a bunch. Like it was recurring.
Fair enough. You don't have to have an answer now, but it might be useful to look at what you'd experienced around the time it stopped or decreased. Something might have clicked in your head about a likely path. The sometimes choosing a path, we're dedicated to it. Our mind is settled. That changes how we experience dreams. Sometimes just seeing a new possibility open up, even if we haven't chosen it yet, that still gives us a relief from the trapped feeling. There are options. Well, I'll look at them, but at least I know they're there. That can also change the nature of what we experience. But you said even as recently as 3 or 4 days ago, you might have had this dream again, and this was the most recent one, or
this is the kind of the typical one, because I do think there is typically the TV and the news, and it might not be an asteroid they're talking about, but that's the most normal one. That's kind of the basic one, and the one I have most recently was just like that, which is the same as the very first one I had.
Gotcha.
Really?
Yeah. So I definitely, I mean, whether I'm able to have you back for another dream, I'd sure love to keep in touch in terms of, well, has this one changed? Did it go away entirely? Is it showing itself to you in a new form? I'm always fascinated to learn that. And it's what I'm also doing is, see, I've got my psychology background. I did 20 years in emergency mental health, inpatient, severe bipolar, schizophrenia, suicidal depression, all that good stuff. So I got that training, I got the foundation, I got the training and the experience. This last couple of years has been my trying to get my self-taught master's degree in a way in specifically sleep in dreams. I'm just doing it all myself. I'm not going to school for this. I'm not paying another $30,000-$50,000 for a plaque to hang on the wall. I'm just gonna. So I call myself a wizard. Just gonna do this on my own, and no accreditation. People watch. They like what I do. They believe I'm good at it, or they don't. But that's what that was my path of doing all this historical dream literature republication, not just to have books for sale because you got to make a living, but these are the theories, the perspectives, the understanding that's training me. I'm just reading everything I possibly can. And then at some point I'll get up to, okay, well, what's the latest stuff? And look into more of that. Some of it's more, I hesitate to get into that because I don't have a lot of confidence in recent academic endeavors for a lot of reasons. So I'm going back to 100 years ago where things were a little more rigorously scientific than they appear to be these days, in some ways. So I was going somewhere with all that.
You're doing that full time, or are you still working as a clinical psychologist?
No, that's when I started up this channel. That was the end of that. I didn't want to be a mental health prison guard anymore, unfortunately, because these were locked facilities where people were sometimes in significant distress and very much out of control of their behavior, and to keep them from hurting themselves or others, sometimes we had to keep a door locked and people weren't happy about it. And that never sat right with me. If anyone, reads my Twitter, I'm very much on the libertarian side of things. You do you. There is a limit. Hurting self or others. Someone who's like, we have an old man with dementia. Should I just let him walk in front of a train, or should I use force to keep him out of trouble, even if that's not what he wants? That's a huge dilemma for me. I want to protect it. And people say that too about like spanking kids. They use this. Well, what if your kid runs into traffic? Well, number one, stop him. Maybe you don't have to hit him. Just pick him up and get him out of traffic.
He comes into traffic. Get him out of traffic.
Yeah. No, but that's also using force on another person for their own good. Mm-hmm. And I do think we treat children differently. But it's tough. A lot of our mental health stuff is, what am I trying to say? Cultural in a way. Like what is, and a lot of people throw around psychological terminology. Oh, you're delusional. It means something very specific, but it is also a description of behavior. The person is stating a belief in something that appears contrary to what is real. Well, now what is real? And we get into arguments with that with a lot of people. And you tell someone, I see this, and they're like, well, you're wrong. Okay, now one of us has to be delusional. Technically, we both can't be right about seeing this thing from completely opposite perspectives. So that's
not unless you're a relativist.
Yeah, which I don't see how anyone can be.
It's all true and not true at the same time.
The funny thing is there's a lot of things that are relative to one another. I mean, it's I like the standpoint of, if I have my hands here and go, I see a microphone, and you say I don't. Well, we're both right. You don't see a microphone. I do see a microphone, but it's there. It's always been there.
It's always there. That's the part that is not relative.
There's a relativity of perspective, and there's the absolute truth that is not relative. I don't know. I've gone rounds with people about that. They're like, nope, don't believe it. I'm like, okay, I agree to disagree. I don't know what else to do. So that's where I get into the idea of, okay, if we're going to approve using force for someone's own good under specific conditions, we better be damn sure those conditions are true, accurate, correct. I'm very sketchy about that kind of stuff. And long story short, I didn't want to be a mental health prison guard anymore. So I got out of that. And it was honorable work in the sense that there were many people who would have been in a bad way if someone hadn't been there to take care of them, and they were grateful afterwards. And then there's a lot of people who are like not very happy about it, never got better, so to speak. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. So I don't know. You can only do that for so long. What was it? 20 some odd years ago, way back in the beginning, I worked at a youth home for a minute and made it longer than most people do. But then I realized after that, I just can't work with kids. It's not my specialty. But even containing adults in that way was stressful, and I was always at war with myself about, do I really want to be doing this? Do I really feel good about this? What I have to do to be helpful. So long story short, that's my life.
Right. No, right on. It's great. I was curious before because I know it says that you, in your Twitter bio, that you were a practicing psychologist or whatever, and Yeah.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, well, this is a lot better, a much better fit for my personality, I think. I mean, I was good at that too, but this is more like I'm just sharing information. I'm having a laugh with people and I'm helping them see things maybe they couldn't see without a little bit of a mirror to just bounce it back and some fresh ideas, second opinion. I very much prefer collaborative interactions to confrontational interactions. Not my, as much as I enjoy arguing with people on Twitter, like, well, this is about the truth, but this is about understanding and pulling ideas together. You know, sometimes you argue with people to discover what is true. Sometimes you don't argue with people because the truth is inside their head and you're just trying to pull out the way they see it. That's perfectly fine. That's, you know, you pretty much, there's no wrong understanding of a dream unless it just doesn't seem to relate to anything at all.
Yeah.
We could probably ramble for another 2 hours.
For sure.
Yeah, I got some deliveries to make today. I gotta go see a man about a horse, so to speak. Yeah, so I'll just say, to our friend Liam from BC, Canada, thanks for being here and sharing your dream with us. I always appreciate it.
For sure. Thanks for having me, Ben. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, and I'll just do the housekeeping that I forgot to do at the beginning. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more volunteer dreamers. T-shirt, coffee mug, donations, 13 books of historical dream literature, yada, yada, you know the drill. And thanks for listening.